Today, we're going to talk about using the scientific method. The scientific method is a step-by-step procedure for practicing science. This week, we will learn how to use the scientific method. Using the scientific method. It is a step-by-step procedure for practicing science. The steps include an observation and question, the hypothesis, collecting data, and drawing a conclusion. Let's begin with an observation. Our friend Sam notices that the grass on the school grounds is not green everywhere. In one place where students wait for the bus, the grass is brown. Sam makes a diagram to illustrate his observation. His question is, why is the grass brown in the area the students wait for the bus? Based on his observation, Sam states a hypothesis. In science, a hypothesis is an idea or explanation that then you test through study and experimentation. Sam states his hypothesis. Students walk on the grass near the area where they wait for the bus. Recall that a hypothesis is a possible answer to a question based on an observation. A hypothesis is always tested to see if it is correct or not. The next step in the scientific method is collecting data. That is pieces of information that are collected to test a hypothesis. They are called data. There are many different types of data. There's qualitative data, which is in the form of words, like students walk on the grass and the sidewalks. There's also quantitative data, which is in the form of numbers, like how much. 10 students walk on the grass and 3 students walked on the sidewalk. Sam made a table. Sam used the scientific method. After making an observation, he asked a question. He answered this question by stating a hypothesis. Sam completed the steps of the scientific method by collecting data and drawing a conclusion. If you look at the graph, here's what we see. Make an observation. Step 1. The grass is brown at the area where students wait for the bus, and green in the area closer to the school building. Sam next asked a question. Why is the grass brown near a location where the students wait for the bus? He stated his hypothesis. The grass is brown at the location because students walk on the grass there. The next part was collecting the data. For his experiment, Sam observes that students for 3 days while they wait for the bus. During this time, he records the students walk on the grass at location A and no students walk on the grass at location B. Finally, he draws a conclusion. Sam concludes that his hypothesis is correct. The grass is brown at the location A because the students are walking on the grass. If the hypothesis is not correct, he will need to go back and make a new hypothesis and run a new experiment. Sam's hypothesis was good and it could be tested. Sam tested his hypothesis by observing the students and making his observations. When you write up your lab report, this is how it should look. This is an example of a lab report. Remember that the format in your science notebook follows the steps of the scientific method. There is a title to your experiment or your question. Your introduction paragraph states observations, states your questions, and finally states your hypothesis. Next, you tell of your procedure. Describe your experiment. Remember, Sam was going to watch students and where they walk for 3 days. Next is your results. After you have compiled your data, describe the data that you collected. Finally, write the conclusion. Writing your conclusions, state whether your hypothesis was correct or incorrect, and if you have to, make a new hypothesis. And those are the steps to the scientific method.